Extravaganza. My name is Tony Kwalanda. Thank you for making time. We appreciate, of course, you tuning in for this particular show. Remember, of course, as this is happening, we are also live in Kakamega Showground, where we are broadcasting to you live the Kabras Sugar RFC versus Menengai Oilers Kenya Cup final. Remember, also afterwards, there will be the championship final between Masinde Muliro University Science of Technology versus Daystar Falcons, the final for the championship. But this particular time, welcome this show. You know, this is Sports Extravaganza. Tony Kwalanda is my name. I'm very honored, of course, this particular afternoon to have wonderful guests, friends of Cape Media, friends of TV47. They have been here before, except one, but of course we always love bringing in new friends and new corporations. And we're discussing about junior basketball. And this is not just only junior basketball, but inclusivity in junior basketball. There is a new sport, rather a new initiative that is taking Nairobi by storm. And this is giving an opportunity to those children under the age of 17 who have special needs. And this, in this particular case, giving children, boys and girls who are deaf, an opportunity to play basketball. And that's why the French Development Agency, AFD, partner last year in July, in partnership with NBA Africa, began an initiative by the name Basketball Experience to give a chance to the boys and girls across different counties and regions, starting with Nairobi, an opportunity to explore their talent, to enjoy an atmosphere with others, to learn life skills, to get an opportunity. Who knows? They might end up somewhere and be somebody very huge, big, and of course significant in society. And this past week, of course, at Nairobi in Dagoretti South, there was a pilot project where there was this particular initiative that was actually started, and it was in partnership, of course. I saw the ambassador of France in Kenya, that is my good friend, His Excellency Arno Sohe, the German ambassador to Kenya, His Excellency Sebastian Groth, and together, of course, with the Kenya country director of Africa, the French Development Agency, AFD, and Chopin. They were at that particular event. And now, after their experience outdoor, they have come indoor to give us the whole perspective about the basketball experience. Your Excellency, Sebastian Groth, it's good to see you again. Thank you for making time. Welcome to Sports Extravaganza. Kenya Country Director, and
Chapri.
Forgive me, I'm from Western Kenya. Chapri. It's written differently, but of course, we shall see them on the, below our name straps. Of course, welcome. Thank you for making time. And of course, our good friend as well, His Excellency Arno Sohe, the French ambassador to Kenya. Welcome.
Asante kwa mwaliko.
Gentlemen and lady. Now we're discussing about that. Of course, remember, this particular initiative started last year in July, the basketball experience. And for the figures that you already know, over 7,000 children have already had the experience of basketball under 18. Over 50 schools in Nairobi are having the basketball experience, where about 20 coaches, 11 female, 9 male, are giving life skills to these boys and girls, not only just basketball, but about how life, and to prepare them for what is coming up. And that's, of course, they are here, my guests are here to expand on this. As you know, we'll always obey the rule. Of course, I know the two gentlemen will not allow me to pick them before we allow the lady, of course, to start us off. So I'll welcome Anne. This particular basketball experience, how far, how will you rate it? Let's say almost 1 year down the line when you started, what are the, the results from it? Of course, looking at the numbers, 7,000, 50 schools.
7,000 per week, not in total.
Oh,
7,000 children per week are practicing basketball, which means that at the end of the experience, I'm sure there will be a lot of children who have had the opportunity to practice.
Yes.
But the results are very good. We have the chance of having chosen a very good implementing partner here, which is the Kenya Red Cross. And they've done a very good job in identifying the schools, already 54 schools, that are part of the project. And among these schools, we already have few schools who are welcoming children with disabilities in some classes. So that was for us a good way to start experiencing this new component of the basketball experience that we want to implement now, which is the component with children with disabilities. So now we're planning, as we think it's going very well, to have more schools, up to 20 more schools. And as you mentioned, most of the schools at the moment are in Nairobi County, but then we would like to expand outside of Nairobi and find more schools, and in particular schools with children with disabilities, so that we can really build on a championship as well for wheelchair basketball, for instance, and other possible sports that you can do when you are children with disability.
Oh, well done. French Ambassador Arno, so I saw you at that school last time out when you're outdoor there. You were geared up for doing some nice free throws, and we saw you doing a layup. That experience with these young boys and girls, what did you pick from there that evening when you're sitting back and looking at that particular event? What was that special thing that you picked up from this particular basketball experience with the deaf and the non-deaf under 18 players?
Asante. Kwanza ningependa kusema kila mtoto ana haki zake. And that's the spirit of what we're trying to do, you know. Through this basketball experience. As it was said, we wanted, moving forward, to include children with special needs in the program. So we have, I think, 2 schools already out of the 50 schools that are part of this program. And moving forward, I like all the schools of Nairobi who can cater for children with special needs to be included in this program. You know, France last year, we came here to talk about the Olympic and Paralympic. And for the first time in history, you know, this Nembo from, you know, the Olympic Games, you know, they have made something about people with disability. Yes. And it was the first time in history that the symbol of the Olympic and Paralympic Games was including people with disability. I think it's an important issue. I think my best friend, the ambassador of Germany, will talk about what Germany has convened at a global disability summit. But from Paris to Nairobi to Kinyanjui in Dagoretti, it's the same issue. Sports needs to be a vehicle for inclusivity. Everybody should have a right to play and express its talent, being able or disabled.
Well done, well done. You'll explain more about that, of course, a bit later. Ambassador Growth, of course, there's that disability summit. Would you want to expand on that, of course, and speak also into this particular event that you attended recently about the basketball experience and inclusion, of course, deaf and the non-deaf players to enjoy this game?
Well, I was overwhelmed by the enthusiasm of the kids. Of course, also the professional way the NBA trainer worked with them, and the whole spirit in this school. And it was funny because Arnaud invited me to join him for this event. And when we got there, the headmaster explained us that the school was built also with the support of the German government 13 years ago, which I didn't know. So it was a perfect French-German experience also to visit the school, the kids, and see the dedication and the enthusiasm.
Well done, of course. And this summit that Ambassador Sohaim talked about, will it include having our basketball troops coming there? I know I didn't prepare you for that particular question. You can weigh into that.
No,
lightly, yes.
In fact, there were some Kenyan NGOs represented and initiatives that are taking care of the needs for disability or disabled people. But coming back to the summit itself, it was the 3rd time that this Global Disability Summit was organized. The first one was 2017, the second one was online during Corona, and this time Germany co-organized with Jordan and the Global Disability Initiative, and gathered around 4,000 people for 2 days in Berlin to discuss about inclusivity, equal rights also in education, equal access to the job market as well. And there was one firm commitment that was endorsed by all the participants, that is to give 15% for 15%, because overall of the population of the world, about 15% have one or another form of a disability. And the commitment says that 15% of every development cooperation initiative should have 15%, especially for the needs of disabled people, to facilitate integration and inclusivity for them.
Oh, well done on that. And of course, the Kenyan director, AFD, it's not just about basketball. I know there's a lot of physical wellness, mental wellness. You're teaching them about the environment, a lot of so many things that you're teaching these young boys and girls. Why basketball, and of course, why this?
Well, we thought about basketball because basketball is a team game, so then children can play in team, and it's quite important, and it's a fun game. I mean, you're a former basketball player, yeah. So it's a fun game, and we thought that we could really partner with NBA to create something special. Between technical sports, you know, you learn how to play a sport, but on the same way, you can learn many other things, and that's what we are doing with the Kenyan Red Cross. The Kenyan Red Cross, on top of working with all the schools, also have developed a specific program that is put into the training sessions. And then this makes it so special for the kids as well. We put a lot of emphasis, of course, on gender equality.
Yes.
Of course, we consider it very, very important. So we really try to make sure that we have as many girls and boys and them playing together and showing that we all have different skills but a lot of abilities. And this makes the whole program very different.
And true, and of course, Ambassador Sohe, yesterday, the day before yesterday, and yesterday as well, there were the junior NBA finals in Mombasa. Of course, where some Nairobi schools dominated that particular event. However, I'm just bringing in France because I was looking at statistics about France being ranked the 4th globally in basketball on the FIBA World Rankings. That is, of course, the world governing body in basketball in the world. And here you are, but of course, France and NBA and the Kenyan government, of course, and the Kenyan people are coming together to have a basketball experience. These young boys and girls, and they're watching right now, I'm sure they're looking forward to maybe one day going to test the prowess of France.
Oh, you're right. I think moving, beside basketball, you're right. Basketball, I think France did well in the last Olympics. We unfortunately lost in the final, men and women, against the US, but we're vice champion, Olympic champion. But I think France is a sporting nation, so as is Kenya. Kenya first did very well in the last Olympic Games, 11 medals, first nation in Africa, second nation, I think, on track. France reached 5th place globally, and more than excellence, sports diplomacy is a key element of our relation between France and Kenya, because sports is important. It brings people together, and I can give a few examples. It's also an immense vehicle for education, harmony, peace. So France supports a lot of community-based organization here in Kenya, working in the field of sports, but sport through education. As it was said, sports as a vector to promote equality between women and men. Sport as a vehicle to fight gender-based violence. Sport as an element of unity. A few examples. We're very proud to, and AFD has been a partner of the Tegla Lorupe Foundation. Right. And Tegla Lorupe Foundation has been organizing, peace runs in the Rift Valley here in West Pokot. And sport has been instrumental in calming tension throughout, different communities. We have implementing, and we're still implementing, a coaching program for athletics together with the city of Miramas. Yes. As you remember, Miramas was the city that was welcoming the Kenyan Olympic delegation. And we're nurturing the heritage of the games between Kenya and France. And so through this training of coaches, we also, together with the Kenyan Athletics Federation and the Kenyan Olympic Committee, from the onset, we said we need to bring an element of education, equality, gender equality, and fight against gender-based violence. So it's a very powerful tool, and we're very proud of our various partnerships in the field of sports.
Well done, of course, and we appreciate, of course, your hospitality for Team Kenya. They came back smiling and glowing. Well done. Well done, good job. Ambassador Groth, of course, I'm looking at Germany. Also, Germany is ranked number 3, according to the current statistics on the global FIBA, that is basketball world governing body, in basketball in the men's side. I'm looking at the number of appearances you made in Olympics, in Euro basketball, and of course I'm looking at one of my favorite basketball players, Dirk Nowitzki, those kind of players. And then of course here you are partnering, of course, being part of this particular initiative, basketball experience. Where do you see our Kenyan players, our young and boys, being? I mean, of course, picking up from what ambassadors were.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of talent around, and I remember 1.5 years ago, there was a Kenyan player who was entering the German Bundesliga in basketball. Also, I don't remember his name. I think he came from the Nyanza region, but he's now playing in the first Bundesliga team in the eastern part of Germany, Erfurt, I think. And we also had trainers from Alba Berlin, which is the top team in Germany, in Nairobi last year for workshops and train the trainers program. You see that basketball is really playing an important role. And it was 2 years ago that the German men's team won for the first time the World Championship, and that's brought a big push into the scene. And then at the Olympics, the women won the 3x tournament, the street basketball tournament, which was a surprise. I think nobody anticipated this. And I watched it when, when it was transmitted from Paris, and it was really fascinating to see the speed and the power of the game. So I think we are on a good track with regard to basketball, and that's a lot of potential cooperation together with France, with the NBA, with Germany. We have a program run by GIZ, which is called Sport for Development, that goes a little bit in the same direction, meaning that we equip sport pitches and we build football pitches and basketball fields all over Kenya, not only in Nairobi, but across the country. And I opened one of these last year in Turkana, and it was really fantastic to see how the young people appreciated this. And I think giving this equipment and these possibilities to the youth here in Kenya, we will see a development in the next 10-15 years, which will be enormous.
Wow, well done. No, of course. And I'm looking at the families that you've touched. Of course, what Ambassador Sohe mentioned about the Tegla Lerupe Foundation,
Yes.
which you support AFD
Yes.
in West Pokot. I can see, of course, the Peace Race, the footballers, the coaches that, of course, through that program and your support to that particular community. The families, you know, you're looking at this time, you're just looking at these boys and girls in these pictures. But you can imagine the mother, the father, the sister, the lives that you have touched. And you not only just do sports. Initially, actually, your prime objective was in the energy sector to support the country, maybe in power and all that. But now you're diversifying in sport. Why sport?
Well, you are right. I mean, AFD has been working in this country for many years, working with the government, working with civil society and the private sector, mainly in infrastructure projects. Energy project, water and sanitation project, also urban development, education, and etc.
Yes.
I mean, we found out that building infrastructure is not enough.
Okay.
Building infrastructure is not enough. And one of our goals is what we call social cohesion and inclusion, building links between people that will make everything a lot easier. Because when you bring water to a place, well, that's great. I mean, it's essential. It's an essential need. But in this place, as you mentioned, there are people, there are families, there are communities. So that's why now we've developed this strategy, Sports for Development, 4 years ago, and we want to include in as many projects as we can a component on sports, because we know that sports is really a tool to bring the community together, really. And so we've started here in Kenya. We have some pilots, especially in one project on rehabilitation of informal settlement, which is a huge project we're having in many counties here in Kenya. And we are starting a pilot here in Nairobi to see how we could insert more sports things into our projects, because in these rehabilitation projects we do have a lot of equipment, but maybe we don't think about sports. Maybe we don't think about sports courts and also all the things around a sports court, because well, it's good to have a sport court, but then if you don't bring money, resources to community-based organizations, I mean, these sports courts will be empty or not used well, or not maintained. That's what we're trying to do as well. So this is definitely something that gives more to what we do. Sports is a good tool for that.
Indeed. Ambassador Sohe, I know you don't work in a vacuum. Of course, AFD and of course the embassy in Nairobi, you work with the Ministry of Education, you work with the Ministry of Sports, you work with the local leadership. How are they receptive? I saw you, of course, at this particular, at the Kinyanjui Road Primary School. You had Honorable Kiarie, the Dagoretti South Member of Parliament. How is the reception with the local leadership in terms of this kind of basketball experience?
I think it is great, and because everybody understand that basketball and other sports are very important to tap into the young people's talent. You have a very young society here in Kenya that wants to practice sport and express and nurture their talent. So we felt very excited when the government say, you know, we want to monetize talent. We want to bring talent into real business, you know, that people can live on their talent. So we totally share the objective of nurturing, creating the condition whereby the young people of this country can express their talent and make it, some of them, making it of a living for performance sport, but not only, because we believe that in France, that sports is an industry, it's a business. Let me give you a few examples where we can collaborate with the government or with the authorities. Even it's not necessarily public intervention, it can be private intervention. This company, Decathlon, has invested in a running academy in Eton. And they have created conditions whereby, through this academy, the best talents, the best runner, and you know, you have plenty of those, can really focus on running and performing their professional career by simple things. Giving them a salary. Giving them a salary enables them to focus on sport and not, you know, working in the shamba or catering to other problems. So they can really focus on performance and running. And the results have been amazing. They have released this fantastic movie called House 42, where they document the lives and the experience of those young people. So it is about creating the space and the enabling condition. Another example, the other day I was together with His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Mudavadi, in Charter Hall, where we, together, we participate in an e-sport tournament. I must say, PCS actually defeated me on the screen. But his message and our message were convergent, you know. This is a new space, a new industry. We call it the screen industry or the screen sports. And you have many talents, both in performing through those games, but also in creating content. And you have, you know, role models, examples that Kenyan made it internationally. I'm talking about The Beast, Queen Arrow. I think it is about creating partnerships and creating the enabling conditions for those young people to thrive.
Indeed. Well, of course, on Ambassador Growth, I know you've really made good relationships with a lot of county governments. Of course, remember last time when I hosted you over here, You had a lot of good partnerships with, for example, the Kilifi county government led by His Excellency Gideon. How important is this? And in terms, of course, besides the sports diplomacy, I'm sure also Germany also has a lot of other projects that are tied towards sports.
No, that's true. As I said, one of the equipment investments was done in Turkana. We are also active in Bugoma and in Kisumu.
Yes.
We went to Kilifi. But if I may, I would also like to make a point beyond sport, because we are also very active with regard to inclusiveness in the field of TVET. Yes. So I visited Homa Bay 3 weeks ago, and I visited a disability TVET school, so where deaf and other disabled pupils learn professional skills in order to get jobs. And I met a young lady who worked for 3 or 4 months in a hotel, and the hotel was so happy with her. They wanted to hire her from the spot, but the school said she first has to finish her education at the school. But I was really impressed by the work that was done there, and I think there is a societal taboo still in Kenya and in Germany and other countries as well about disabled people, and bring them to the forefront and educate and integrate them. And I think that's something that development partners could reach out, and that's what we are doing. And I think it's a very, very important project that we have, and that goes beyond sport. But coming back to the Kilifi experience, that was the European soccer tournament that we organized and co-organized last year. And I was there with my colleagues from the EU delegation and of course with Governor Gideon. And it was a fantastic experience as well. I saw so much enthusiasm and energy from the young people. That I really admire this spirit that you see when you see this spirit, of course, in Nairobi, but you see this same spirit or even more of this spirit if you go beyond Nairobi, because there's so much talent out there and so much enthusiasm, and I think it was a very, very big success.
Indeed, well done. And of course, picking up from Ambassador Growth, you've mentioned about expanding or getting to other regions in Kenya. What are some of the challenges that you anticipate, and how you're going to make those inroads in terms of actually making sure that my people in Kakamega, deaf and undeaf, play basketball, my people in Bungoma, of course where you mentioned, my people in Kisumu, in Bondo, in Homa Bay, in Kitui, all of them, of course, feel part of this initiative.
Yes, I mean, that's why we're so happy to have this very good partner as the Kenyan Red Cross. I mean, they're based everywhere, and they will be very helpful in identifying the right schools. Definitely this new component, so we would like to reach a minimum of 20 new schools. And so this component, definitely will have to be a bit out of Nairobi, and in particular because, as I said, we want to identify schools with children with disabilities. So we'll hope they will find some. We have already started contact with the Wheelchair Basketball Association. They were here in Dagoretti last week, and as well very enthusiastic. We had already had some discussions previously, so we will continue these discussions, and I'm sure they will help us to identify these schools. Of course, when we're talking about children with disabilities, and for instance wheelchair, children in wheelchair, it means other equipments. So these are something that we need to think about. So we know that it's going to be a bit more difficult, but we consider it's going to be so much more impactful at the end of the project. I mean, having a project that brings together, all the children, and in particular children with disabilities, as we know, and they say it, and it was so inspiring. During the Dagoretti presentation, we had a group of deaf children who did a poem for us, and it was really inspiring and touching, because they really said to us, thanks to this, we are included in the school. We become a real part of the school, and this is what we want to show. We want to show how much these projects can be bigger and better when we start including children with disabilities. I had the chance to be in Paris during the Paralympics last September, and I bought ticket with my families and friends to a wheelchair basketball game. Just so great, entertaining, fun, and so inspiring. I mean, looking at these people playing an incredible basket, and this is something that we want to show. So, for instance, with this basketball experience, every year there is a final, what we call the final game. And so in this final game, we'll have games with children with disabilities. And we hope, maybe not this year because we're just starting this program, so maybe next year, but we hope to have games with children with disabilities, and children will come with their families. And everyone will be just enjoying all this, pride of being part of this. And so we feel this is something great. And actually, so we had these basketball experience programs in 3 other countries.
Yes.
And we're going to be the only country with this specific component. So I'm very proud of that.
Well done. Of course, that you mentioned, it should be Casablanca, Morocco, as well as...
We had Morocco,
Nigeria?
we have Nigeria and Senegal. But we're going to be the only one with this component.
Well done. Kenya, we're always lucky. Of course, as we wind up, Ambassador Sohe, sports diplomacy is, of course, it's very beneficial in terms of the relationships between France and Kenya. So far, how does sports diplomacy, of course, bind or make this bind stronger?
You won't imagine what sports can do to people that don't know each other, that don't speak the same language. I was myself witnessing this whole partnership between Miramas and Kenya. And it started by what? 1 or 2 individual Kenyan training in Miramas. And Miramas has fantastic facilities. That's why I think Kenya made the right choice to acclimatize there. But it is thanks to people like Paul Tergat, who's been training there, or now Ferdinand Manyala, who is actually a member of the Miramas Athletic Club. And now when you go to Miramas, you always find a Kenyan somewhere around the corner. So it is a story of partnership. It is a story of friendship. And as the embassy, we didn't start the program. We're just supporting it because it sort of binds people together. And those people, except sports, wouldn't have an avenue to meet, partner, and do things together. So moving forward, we want to partner, we want to support that, we want to nurture this legacy of friendship, partnership through the Olympic Games, and we will do so.
Well done. Thank you so much, Ambassador Sohe. Of course, as you wind up, Ambassador Growth, sports diplomacy, of course, we saw the benefits of it. 2 teams last year went to Romania, were training by the top teams, the national teams in Romania, Bucharest, had a lovely experience, boys and girls, under 17. Now we are getting into basketball. What other more sports does Germany intend to have an exchange program with Kenya?
There's an intense exchange between the national Olympic committees of Germany and Kenya, and the head of the German Olympic Committee, Mr. Mronz, was in Nairobi and Mombasa just 4 weeks ago, and he met Paul Tergat, and they are in deep discussions, and they already identified 1 or 2 sports where the 2 federations will partner. But we are also doing much more. We invite every year 3 to 4 Kenyan trainers from different sports to our academy to Leipzig. And we have also very intensive exchanges between several federations to develop curricula, to develop train-the-trainer programs, to develop exchange programs, and invite Kenyan sports men and women also to Kenya, and vice versa, because it's also nice for the Germans here coming to Kenya and learn from the runners, from the athletes that are very strong, that are world class, of course. So I think, as Arnaud said, sports diplomacy is really a central part of people-to-people diplomacy. It's not only about diplomats, about ministers and about members of parliament, but it's about the common Wananchi, that they meet, that they get to know each other, that they train together, that they achieve things together, and that they compete also together, and have a lot of fun. And that's what we need, I think, in this world that is getting more and more complex and complicated. And in this regard, sports plays a very, very important role.
Indeed. Ambassador Sebastian Groth, the German ambassador to Kenya, the country director to the French Development Agency, AFD, and of course the French ambassador to Kenya, His Excellency Arnaud Souré. Forgive me if I pronounced it wrong, but I think I got it right. Of course, they are here to share that basketball experience, and of course the partnership between AFD and NBA Africa to give deaf and non-deaf basketball players under 17 boys and girls an opportunity to enjoy the game, to explore their talent, social inclusion, physical wellness, mental wellness, give an opportunity to explore their talent so that they don't feel that they have been forgotten. So well done. And if you just didn't know, the Kenyan country director of AFD, that is Anne, used to play volleyball. She still plays volleyball, correct?
Not anymore, not anymore.
No, not even on PlayStation, like esports or ambassador?
I'm not a very esport person. No, I'm more into sailing sports and windsurfing and these kind of things. And we're quite lucky because, I mean, the coast is not that far from Nairobi. So I try to be more into that side now. But I met my husband playing volleyball. So there was an important part of my life, definitely.
So your husband was playing volleyball?
He was playing volleyball.
I wish he was here too.
He is.
Because I saw, I don't know if I'm taller than him, and I'm wondering which position he was playing. We could have invited him, I think. But thank you so much indeed. Your Excellencies, greetings from Pauline Shegu. You remember the Director of Communications of the Ministry?
Yes.
Said I pass
thank you very much
to you, of course. They are friends. They are your friends. They are friends of the first. They were here last time.
She was at the Safari Rally.
Yes, Safari Rally. She actually finished, and of course the results were released just yesterday, where she was she was amongst the top finishers in the national rally championship.
Okay.
So she said, "I say hello," because she.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you so much indeed for making time. Hope to see you again to speak about the next stages and the development, of course, and the successes that we've done. We'll be very happy to host you here. Remember, also, we have our Radio 47, which is also nowadays both visual and audio, where you can be there, listen and watch at the same time. So we hope, of course, soon, just the way Ambassador speaks Kiswahili, yourself as well, we'll be able to have you on a radio station as well. So you're most welcome. Thank you for making time. Remember, this is Sports Extravaganza. I've been having the Excellencies and the Country Director of AFD speaking about the Basketball Experience Initiative. That is, of course, an initiative between AFD and NBA Africa to give an opportunity to boys and girls under the age of 18, deaf and non-deaf, those with special needs, an opportunity to explore their talent. We are taking a very, very, very short break. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.